This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.
A few hours into playing Contra Rogue Core on Switch made me realize what specific itch this left turn of a Contra sequel was scratching. Rogue Core started to remind me of the Masahiro Sakurai-directed 3DS classic Kid Icarus Uprising. Much like the classic side-scrolling action of the 8-bit and 16-bit era Contra games, Kid Icarus was known for just being a platformer. Uprising bucked that trend, instead taking the very well-defined nature of the original Kid Icarus games and transforming it into a third-person shooter with a heavy focus on loot and online multiplayer. Rogue Core does a very similar thing to the Contra series, even if it isn't the first entry in the series to do that. I played Contra Legacy of War on PlayStation back in the day, and wow, that's a bad video game. Rogue Core isn't an action side-scroller. Instead, it's a perspective-shifting, twin-stick shooter focused on getting loot and upgrading your eclectic quartet of heroes. Of course, the huge difference here is Kid Icarus Uprising is, at least in my opinion, one of the best games on 3DS. Contra Rogue Core, on the other hand, is a little bit more of a generic shooter at its core, whose highest moments entail the occasionally crisp moments of frenetic action and a potential for enjoyable multiplayer. The latter is a key aspect as to why this isn't a full review yet, it's just in progress. Contra Rogue Core is heavily dependent on multiplayer, with every level being able to be played in co-op with up to 4 players total. Unfortunately, only a certain level type, the randomly generated exploration missions, are playable in couch co-op. This seems like it might be a technical limitation, as there are definitely moments in the more structured missions that skew cinematic in a way that would make 4 players on a screen unbecoming. Still, it limits the game horrendously in local multiplayer. You have to put a solid hour or more into the game to even unlock the option for couch co-op. As for the online multiplayer, well, the online is currently not up as of this recording. It should be all up fine and well by the time the game launches on September 24th, and when it is, we'll put time into the co-op and competitive multiplayer, and then come back and let y'all know how it is. The co-op is the same content as the existing single-player and local options, whereas the competitive multiplayer is 4-on-4 team battles with varying objectives. I read what was in the game. I can't do anything with it until the online's live. The actual twin-stick shooting gameplay is totally fine, aside from the shifting camera perspectives, occasionally making aiming a little frustrating at times, especially at off-screen foes. Where Rogue Core succeeds is in the weapon customization and variety. You always have 2 weapons to switch between, a main gun and a sub-weapon. To start, you have options between machine guns and lasers for main guns, but the likes of homing missiles and flamethrowers as starting sub-weapons. Playing through missions will earn you credits, weapon blueprints, massive upgrade items, and body parts. Yes, as part of Rogue Core's hardcore story, you can take each of the 4 characters under the knife to surgically graft boosts to their brain, eyes, skeleton, and organs. It's a dopey way of doing this, but it lets you more minutely customize each character, having them have specific loadouts. The upgrade items are used to create new weapons from blueprints, which adds zanier and more powerful weapons. My early favorite is the Devil Baby, which just shoots out, I guess, a small devil baby that rolls through enemies and explodes. You can also crack open a chainsaw, drill, and all sorts of peculiar weaponry. One kind of lesser element about this is that all the guns can overheat. So as someone who played old Contra games where I'd just be slamming on the fire button the whole time, you need to be a little more cognizant of how long you're rapid firing a weapon. That's why it's nice that there are 2 options to switch between, because I found I kind of had my best times playing the game where I'd be toggling between my main and my sub-weapon, kind of juggling how overheated they would get. That mixture of weapons and modifiers, though, it helps make the basic gameplay loop just more enjoyable. Every once in a while, though, you move into the shooting gallery mode, which seems modeled after the behind-the-back levels of the original Contra. These don't jive as well with the controls, as aiming is extremely jerky, and if you have the wrong loadout of weapons, these moments can be just infuriating. On top of all this is the aggressively and needlessly R-rated direction of the story. F-bombs launch on the regular here in a way that's not funny so much as it just feels like the writers were given the direction to be as unnecessarily ribald as possible. I'm down for a well-executed obscenity and dirty joke, this just lacks any semblance of good execution. Ostensibly, this is a direct sequel to the Super Nintendo Contra game, Contra 3 The Alien Wars. It takes place 5 years or so after the Alien Wars, but aside from some generally minor references, it might as well just be in a whole new franchise. One of the characters is a woman who has an alien in her stomach that, surprise, curses a lot. She eternally has a sword shoved into this alien's mouth, removing it to do special attacks. Another one is a panda. There's also an alien named the Gentleman, and a generic male hero who, shocker, says the F word a whole lot. Contra doesn't need a deep story, just place gun-toting heroes in front of a war against aliens and junk, and we're good. And that's why I'm just confused there's an attempt to tell one here. It drags the finer elements of the game down. I'm enjoying my time with Contra Rogue Corps far more than I expected when the game was announced at E3 and revealed to be as almost un-Contra-like as possible. It's rough around the edges, specifically in this ridiculous foul badass story and presentation, coupled with the restrictions on local multiplayer. The actual shooting has enough there that could make it a fun multiplayer game, I guess only online, but with so much of it hinging on the online play, I can't draw a total conclusion yet. I hope the weapon customization and upgrading can gel well with online multiplayer, so that way Rogue Corps can transcend its issues and be a boisterous and enjoyable action game. It might not totally feel like Contra, and it might just be Contra in name alone, but from what I've played of Rogue Corps over the past 5 to 10 hours that I've played with it, it seems like it's a good time, and I look forward to hopping online and checking it out and reporting back to hopefully say that, like, that was a damn fun time playing fake Contra online with friends. But yeah, we'll be back with that probably the end of the week after the game comes out on September 24th on Switch and other platforms. So, if you're encouraged by what you heard and maybe you're just fine with the single player experience, then just go, maybe. If not, if you're really curious to see how the online shapes up, well, we'll be back later in the week to give you a final conclusion and a final score of Contra Rogue Corps. And until then, thanks for watching. Bye.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more, all for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.